Honorable Sir Kennedy Alphonse Simmons was the founding member of the People's Action Movement in St. Kitts and Nevis. He was the premier from February 1980 until the Twin Island state gained independence from the United Kingdom on the 19th of September 1983. Upon independence, he became the first Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and as such, has been hailed as the father of the nation. He was the Prime Minister from 83 until 1995. And incidentally, he was born April 12th, 1936. 18 years later, I was born on April 12th, 1954. Just a side note. I am going to read his sharing at one of the UPF conferences that he gave a few years ago. Mr. Chairman, fellow participants, over the years we have come together, people of various countries, cultures, religions, languages, and races, brought together by a true crusader for world peace. Reverend Moon, with Mrs. Moon, have done and continue to do great work in trying to bring about world peace through fostering greater unity among all people and by promoting the values of true family life in obedience to God. This work goes far beyond the conference rooms in which we have met and extends into bringing belligerent nations together, educating young leaders, supporting poverty alleviation programs, and promoting research into vital technologies. The battlefield is the real world, and that is where the war to achieve peace must be fought. The war for peace. When I examined the mandate given to me to address the Assembly, it required me to offer my reflections on the requirements, imperatives, reforms, innovations, etc., necessary if we are to establish a global culture which provides the basis for a new era of peace. This mandate for my address is also, of course, the framework for your consideration. Two things came forcibly to mind as I read the topic. The first is that I, as the speaker, and all of us as participants, were being asked the question, where do we go from here? What is the way forward? What can we do? In other words, we were being asked to be action-oriented. This approach is timely, because time is not on our side. The second thing that struck me about the topic was its reference to establishing a global culture which provides the basis for a new era of peace. The words global and culture are highly significant because therein lay the keys to what must be done for this world, perhaps not in our time, to enjoy an era of genuine peace. Globalization is the current political and economic catchword. If it meant, in practice, what it ought to mean, it would be the solid foundation upon which an edifice of social justice and equity could be built. It would be the philosophical framework by which the rich nations help the poor nations to develop their infrastructure and their human resources as a catalyst for economic and social development. Globalization should mean that we are all our brother's keeper. Then it would be the springboard for the eradication of poverty worldwide. Let us face it, the total resources of all the nations and within our marine environment are enough to provide a good quality of life to all the people who inhabit this earth. But too few have too much, while too many have too little. Globalization is the answer if it means that all nations and peoples work together in genuine partnership to preserve our natural habitat so that it can feed the world's population. The kind of changes required does not come easy. Of equal importance to our action plan for world peace is the second concept presented in our conference theme, establishing a culture of peace. All of us appreciate that a person's culture is the very essence of who that person is. We cannot therefore reflect upon this aspect of our subject without reflecting upon the children of the world. This global environment poses a serious challenge to our efforts to build a proper foundation for the development of our children. We can perceive that there is a sense of hopelessness amongst our youth in many societies across the world. We, the people, in families, in communities, small and large, across the global landscape, must examine ourselves, our prejudices, and our thought processes to see how we can better work with others to determine what aspects of development and what practices in our society are negatively influencing our youth. Then we must forge a coalition with the youth, the religions, the media, the governments, and all civic organizations to develop and implement a constructive agenda to rebuild our communities upon the principles of equity, justice, and inclusiveness. We must all do our part in our families, in our communities, in our churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples to inculcate in our people a culture of peace. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
God needs human help in creating peace worldwide. This is a talk by Reverend G.L. Barrett, Jr., Superintendent, E. Burns Memorial District Church of God in Christ, Chicago.
And he's an ambassador for peace.
There are only 2 times in history that God asked for help. The first time was right after God spent 5 days creating the heavens and the earth. And during that time, everything that God made, from stars to moons to suns to all of the planets and all of the galaxies, and all of the microbiotic as well as macrobiotic life on earth, fowls of the earth, the air, the fish of the sea, God only had to say, "Let there be," and there was. But when God got ready to make man, God asked for help from heavenly beings by saying, "Let us make," not "let there be," but I need some help. Let us make. That was the first time. The second time was for help from earthly beings. The request was made in the form of a challenge of Adam and his mate. You see, God wanted the earth to be populated and to be blessed with the vibrations of the human family, but God did not make a complete human family. He only made a potential human family by creating the father and the mother. The complete family consists of a father, mother, and the child, so that there will be lineage. You can't have grandchildren unless there is at least one child. But God did not create the child. God told the father and the mother, "Be fruitful and you multiply." You replenish the earth. You make the complete family. That means brothers and sisters. We have a responsibility for what man knows, what man thinks, and what man feels about God. After September 11, everybody was asking, why would God allow that to happen? The real science of being teaches us that God didn't allow it to happen. Man made it happen. One of the most favorite hymns in the Christian church says, "O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the world thy hands have made." If there are any Baptists in here, You know the next line. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy hands throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee, to live in peace with each other and thus be moved to say, how great thou art. I have been Baptist in my past. To live in peace with each other and thus be moved to say, how great thou art. Not sun, not moons, are supposed to be inspired man to say, how great thou art, but you are, I am. We are all supposed to inspire each other to say, how great thou art. When man sees us in spite of our economic differences, in spite of our political differences, and in spite of our religious differences, when man sees us beating our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks, then he will see the drawing of a new horizon of peace on earth and goodwill toward all mankind. And then he will sing, how great thou art. We can do this. Let's do it together. Thank you so much.
Good morning, you beautiful people. It is such a pleasure and such an honor to be amongst you today and to be able to share and expound and read upon the UPF Ambassadors for Peace, Leadership, and Practices. You can read along with me. It starts with Ambassadors for Peace are a global network of leaders representing religious, racial, and ethnic diversity of the human family, as well as all principles of human endeavor. They stand on the common ground of shared principles, committed to the path of promoting reconciliation, overcoming barriers, and building peace. The Ambassadors for Peace initiative is a project of the Universal Peace Federation, a global alliance of individuals and organizations that are dedicated to building the world of lasting peace in which everyone can live in freedom, harmony, cooperation, and co-prosperity. The 5 principles for peace are as follows. First, the universal principle, God is the parent of all mankind. Very key, very important. The world can only begin as individuals renew themselves in a transforming relationship with that higher power. The only way to rise above the pursuit of self-interest is to recognize our common humanity, which is given to us by our Creator. Just as it is the parent who intercedes in the disputes of children, it is to our parent God who we can turn to help us resolve the differences that exist between the world's cultures and religions. Because God is the parent of all humankind, we are all, in fact, brothers and sisters. We are capable of a personal relationship with God because we are created in that God's image. Our desire for peace is a reflection of that God, our heavenly parent. Number 2, the universal principle is human beings are essentially spiritual in nature. Human beings have 2 types of natures, physical and spiritual, which both have needs. The desire to satisfy our physical needs and appetites is linked to material values. We seek for food, drink, clothing, and shelter. We want to live in a comfortable environment and enjoy pleasurable sensations. The desire to satisfy our spiritual needs and aspirations is linked to spiritual values. Thus, truth stimulates our intellectual desires. Beauty stimulates our aesthetic desires. And goodness stimulates our moral desires. Complete happiness would be experienced through the harmonious union between the physical well-being that results in satisfying our physical desires and the spiritual fulfillment that comes from fulfilling our spiritual desires. To find inner satisfaction, people meet clear goals and a deeper understanding of what life's meaning and purpose is. We relate to God primarily through our conscience, which naturally guides us towards a higher good. Our conscience is our inner voice and our inner compass toward living for the higher good. A mature conscience guides us to act based on the principles of living for the sake of others. The third universal principle is God's ideal is that we live for the sake of others. Once our needs are taken care of course, the macrocosmic outpouring is that we now take care of each other. By practicing living for the sake of others, we become other rather than self-centered. The individual serves the whole, and in turn is served by the whole, creating a win-win dynamic. As the organs and the limbs of the human body live for each other, so also should we, as members of the larger body of humankind, live for each other. From the scriptures of faith traditions, we read, "Give, and it will be given unto you. For the measure you give will be the measure you receive." Luke 6:38. "Give not with a thought to gain, and be patient unto the Lord." The Quran 74:6-7. "All men are responsible for one another." The Talmud, Sanhedrin 27b. The fourth universal principle is marriage as a sacred institution, and the family as a school of love. The family is intended to be the first school of love. It is in the family that the most basic and personal and public virtues are learned. Hence, the family is the essential foundation of all cultures. Because God created humankind in his own image, male and female, created he them. The role of the parents is essential for the children to receive and experience the unconditional love of God. For this reason, marriage is a sacred and should always be a sacred institution. There are three types of order in the family. The vertical order between the generations links children, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on. We're all familiar with this. The horizontal order links people of a similar age, such as brothers, sisters, husband, wife, cousins, etc. Individual order arises from our personal axis of core values. Maintaining these three types of order ensures harmony in the family. In the typical course of life, a child grows up among siblings, peers, gets married, and becomes a parent. These are the basic stages that we pass through in life. These forms of the four realms of the heart, children's love, siblings' love, spouses' love, and parents' love. All other forms of human love derive from these four types of love. As my family lives for the sake of society, the society prospers and my family shares in its prosperity. As organizations live for the sake of the nation lives, the nation prospers, and so do all of the organizations within it. As the nation lives for the sake of the world's prosperity extends to all nations. This is the great circle of life, giving and receiving, the energy of love. I'm going to interrupt that just for one brief moment. We've all seen how much homelessness is growing. Has it ever occurred to you as you're getting off the off-ramp where there's competing homeless waiting to be fed, that if the family unit was intact, perhaps they would not be there? We have to go back to that microcosm. The fifth principle, universal principle, is interreligious and international cooperation are the essentials to world peace. Religion is the source of humanity's deepest values and highest ideals, and has been for quite some time. It is a powerful instrument for personal transformation, and it is the spiritual and moral framework for any society. If misused, it can have a devastating effect, and we have all seen that. Religious disunity shapes individuals and society negatively. It blocks the way to peace. Butts us against one another. Interreligious dialogue pursues common ground principles, mutual respect, and a deeper understanding as the basis for world peace. We therefore must turn to and practice these essential principles. Living for the sake of others, once our needs are met, living for the sake of others is a path to true love and true fulfillment. I exist to benefit the whole, and the whole in turn benefits me. Peace is sustained and developed through living for the sake of others.
And everyone, we're so glad that you came out in the rain and the snow. These are truly ambassadors for peace that are willing to do anything for the sake of the common good, for the whole, just like parents do with their children. But right now, I'm trying to move everything a little bit faster today, because I know people, because of the weather, people probably want to make sure they make it home. So right now I'd like to ask two of our ambassadors for peace. We'd like to just share a little bit about what ambassadors for peace mean, as an ambassador for peace means for them. And first I'd like to ask Lavonda Brinkley to come up and just share a few words, and then we'll have Tatiana.
Thank you, Church. I was going to correct her, let her know I am Mrs. Lavonda.
I know.
It is so wonderful to be here with you all again. I love, 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 love this assembly. I love all the organizations that are formed within the Unification Church. I don't know how everything's quite organized, but I just love all of it.
These are weak, so it's okay.
Yes. But I do want to say that the designation of an ambassador for peace is just the most wonderful. If you came into my home, there's only one document hanging on my wall for me. It's not a bachelor's degree, it's not a master's degree, it's not a doctorate degree. It's the Ambassadors for Peace certificate. The Ambassadors for Peace is the most important designation that I have. It's the most important organization that I belong to. It has been the most transformative for my personal life. And just a little bit about what it's done for me. Number one, it's allowed me the opportunity to recognize and appoint other awesome people who are making great contributions to this universe, like Tatiana, like my husband, and so many others. So I love being able to see people and how they are walking within their own unique callings and doing their purpose, and to have an opportunity to say, you know, you're one of us. You're an ambassador for peace, and then to make that recommendation to Sharon, and usually see that happening. The other thing that it's done for me has connected me, it has allowed me to be a bridge of all brethren on the planet. Because I'm an ambassador for peace, I've been asked to be an international person in so many other organizations, because Sharon has seen fit to have me in Seoul, South Korea, or to have me in Philadelphia, or in New York, or wherever. I've been able to now be recognized as an international figure, and consequently working with ambassadors in other countries, working with General Secretary Raphael Oko in Nigeria, receiving data communication, knowing what's going on there, and communicating, and phone calls with him. That is powerful, to be able to work with leaders of other nations, and I do that because of Ambassadors for Peace. And I could just go on and on and on, but I will not do that. But everything that I do in my life, I recognize and do it as an ambassador for peace, no matter what my other title may be that I'm wearing. Sharon, I was in DC this week for Eastern Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. And even there are people who say, how can I become an ambassador for peace? So I just got to take some time, because you and I are so busy, to see how can people in other places. I know how to get those from Nigeria, because I do have a Nigerian I recommend this week. But how do I get people who are in other parts of this country, like Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, who want to be an ambassador for peace? They want to be what I am, and they already are. We just have to get them that designation. But thank you. I love being an ambassador for peace, and I thank you all for your support and for being ambassadors as well.
So thank you, Lavonder. It is actually perfect that she would have gone before me, because it is due to Lavander's passion, which she clearly has, for this organization, that I became appointed just last September, I think it was. And so I can't speak with the level of expertise in knowing how to best position and leverage within this wonderful organization at a global level that Lavonder has, because she has definitely been in the trenches and working very passionately for some time. I am new. But like maybe many of you, when we have our own personal moments of reflection and we see the conditions of the world through our level of education, entrainment, watching the news, interacting with our communities, I know that I went through many dark nights of the soul asking myself, what can I do? What can I do as one person? And the truth is, what we can do as one person has an effect, but as my background is in quantum physics, which is a beautiful evolving science, I also understand that quantum physics communicates and is speaking the same thing that many of us know scripturally from an interfaith perspective, that where two or more are gathered in my name, scientifically that means when we come together, we create an exponential quantum effect. One small light looked at under sensitive instrumentation, energy field, as one individual with a purpose, blows out into an exponential quantum field when we come together. I know this as science, I know this as fact, it's exciting, And it is the spiritual principles that we were taught through all of our religious dialogues and sacred scriptures and philosophies. So as a student of religion, world religion, and quantum physics, quantum mechanics, I can tell you that I do not believe it was an accident when Lavander asked me to participate. And it happened so quickly and so randomly that, for me, I found out about it on the morning that I needed to be there by an evening. And I went, what are you asking me to participate in? I don't understand. She goes, well, I already know the things you're doing. I already know what you're doing and having an effect in your own quantum level. And I had to go internally and say, guidance, am I supposed to be here? Is this something I'm meant to be involved in? And I got a very firm, very positive, get your boots on, go. So I am here excited to participate at a level that I think is going to take my small microcosmic effect to a macrocosmic effect. And since that appointment, there have been multiple opportunities to work in areas of my passion that absolutely have to do with interfaith building, which I was asked to sit at the table, no accident, today. But also to work in sustainable communities across our globe, because we know that there is so much that needs to be healed, and it comes with a coalition and a collaboration of vision. We know that we need to work together to create more sustainable futures. We need to create more sustainable economics. We need to create more sustainable communication. And it all starts at that grassroots, our relationship with ourselves and the earth and the divine, then our relationships as families, and then it springs outward, as you know, following the interfaith model to the globe. And so I am very pleased to be at the beginning of working with this organization, but I see an exponential effect, and I'm thrilled to be here. And if you too have a vision of how can I make a difference, go internal, listen to your own intuition. It will tell you exactly how you can do that, and when you are open to it, the opportunity will arrive, and perhaps this is part of that opportunity for you. So thank you so much for letting me join you today.
Ambassador for Peace, family reunion. In the prep process of all of us who planned this day, and mind you, this is the first, so bear that in mind as we move through this process and get to the end. In my research and in my fumbling through papers, I ran across my testimony that was delivered on November 10th, 2006. And so I'm doing a reprise today in your hearing. When I think of making my life count in Christian service, I rejoice and give thanks to God. Called as one of the 120 ambassadors for peace to serve as emissaries under the banner of the Universal Peace Federation, it is my great honor to, on behalf of the founders, Dr. and Mrs. Moon, participate on this peace mission. Traveling through the world, bringing Reverend Moon's message of peace, extending the call for all people to end the divisions and barriers that divide us and enter the ERA in which war and conflict is ended is most urgent for the whole world. Memories of Japan, Korea, London, Netherlands, Slovakia, Germany, France, Portugal, Austria, Africa, I know the Spirit of Jesus took me higher and carried me forward. It's a wonderful world, as the friends, sisters, and brothers I've met, I'll never forget. We met and a relationship bond was formed. We talked of highs and lows with our callings and considered other strategies for tackling our work and missions with renewed energy and passion. It's an awesome journey, and it has not yet appeared what all will be gained from my efforts to live in attendance to God, sharing his happiness and enjoying the right to participate as an equal in his work. I look forward and every day to living for the sake of others. To God be the glory. My testimony lives on still into 2016. The programs that you have in your seats when you came in, I wanted to lift this up as a testimony of the ambassadors for peace who are living their testimonies still into 2006 and on. And I'd like for Sharon, for John, for Mary, for Debbie, Miyaka, all of these people that we work with, because all of us made this even come true for 2016 and all these other years. The Dream Fest dream has been something that we worked on for the past 18 years. All right, so that to me is a testimony that we are vital, we are present, and we are doing something. That we're doing our can do to make a difference in this world.
I lost my mother this past summer, and Kai lost her mother on the exact same day. And I felt like an orphan. I lost my sisters, my brothers, my mom, my dad. And so I felt just like I was an orphan. I don't have any more family but Kai. And Sharon and Carol, you people, when you sang that song about sisters and brothers, it just means the world to me to have this organization, because you are my family, and it means just the world to me to have you. And I thank you so much for being my family, and because it is a family, and I thank you for being there for me. So thank you so much. God bless.